Alrighty. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Cut. Thank you guys so much for joining. Um, welcome back. This is my 13th episode. Thank you guys so much for the support over the past 13 episodes. But today, this is our family friend, Lance Abraham. Lance, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Lance Abraham. I've known Jonathan and his family for, I'm going to say over 20 years. Um, and it's been great to see Jonathan's journey and kind of where he's headed and where he's been. Glad to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so um, what would you say when you were younger, what would you say got yourself into cars?
I don't know that there was any one particular thing that got me into cars, like an event that I could remember. I think the earliest that I remember was watching a couple of TV shows around cars. One was Knight Rider. It's like an 80s show about a talking car that was
Yeah,
a black Trans Am. And then there was a show called Dukes of Hazzard where they were like complete opposite shows. One was set like kind of in the city, super high tech, and then Dukes of Hazzard was like out in the country. Some dudes had a cool orange car that they used to jump over rivers and all kinds of stuff. I guess the common thing is they both had jumping cars. So
right.
I think that's probably the earliest thing where I just got really infatuated with cars. And then from there, it just kind of never left.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of similar, I guess. I I never watched Knight Rider or Dukes of Hazzard. My dad's ringtone on his phone is the Knight Rider theme song. So yeah, I've seen
I,
clips of it. I just haven't watched it. But
I
yeah, my
feel
mom.
like so I tried
Good.
to get so when my nephews were like about, I don't know, 7, 8, when I imagined that I started watching that show, I tried to get them to watch the show. And after the first episode, they're like, that was way too long. And it wasn't really because it was the setup episode, right? It's the
Yeah,
pilot. And that's when I learned they weren't really that much into cars. But yeah, I think back then it was such like it was so futuristic and it was so cool. And if you liked cars at all, the other show was called the A Team. I don't know if you've heard of that. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, and it was like around like a group of military guys that drove around in a really cool looking van. So like all of these things, I don't know, maybe like that was kind of the thing in that era was like shows that revolved around action, cars,
Yeah.
all the stuff that we tend to like. So
Yeah, and when those came out in the early
it was like,
90s?
yeah, it was like late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what were your like original thoughts when like the first Fast and Furious came out?
So when the Fast and Furious came out, I want to say I was in either late high school or early college. And so it was funny because at that age, you're kind of into what's going on around you. And street racing had been happening for a really long time. Well, not a really long time. It'd been happening for a while. So when they came out with the movie, it was just like a continuation of the popularity of street racing at the time, which like these days it's kind of the same as like takeovers, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not really safe. It's around cars. There's like people that are smarter about it, and there are people that are less smart about it. But that first Fast and Furious movie, if you go back and watch it, it's pretty. We'll call it earthy, kind of homegrown, and then it just kind of took a life of its own. I don't think anyone was expecting it to be as popular as it was. It kind of felt like it was just going to be a cult classic film,
Hmm.
and then it just exploded. It was
Yeah.
pretty nuts.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because they just celebrated their 20th anniversary of I
Yeah,
think or 20th or 25th of the franchise. I think that's really cool because I think that has revolutionized the way that people have made like movies about cars and the way that people view cars through the movies because
yeah.
it at least with the original, and at least with like I think it was realistic up until maybe the third one, and then
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that, after that, then it just kind of turned into heist movies, and then
yeah,
like the Avengers, but with cars. Like it just
yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think the first few were kind of more car culture-ish with
yeah,
action built in, and then it turned into a series of action movies that happen to have some cars sometimes in it, you know?
right,
But it probably needed to make that turn to be, like, commercially successful, you know? I
yeah,
think, like, for example, they had, like, the Tokyo Drift, which seems to be the one people like the least, but it was very car culture-y, you know what I mean? It had, like, the action and it had the this and that, but it's like, the reason people probably didn't like it was because it was a very car culture
right,
centric kind of thing, like, if you didn't value, like, the roots of drifting
right,
that comes from Japan and, you know, the era and the environment and all of that stuff, then it was super cool for car guys.
yeah,
Probably not so great for moviegoers that have no clue about it.
yeah. I think that was one. Tokyo Drift was probably one of my favorites out
Yeah.
of all of them.
What did you
Um,
like about it as opposed to the others?
yeah, I think it was also like the authenticity of. Um, I love. I think the older I've gotten, the more appreciation I have towards JDM cars.
Yeah,
Um, I think when I was younger, I was just like American Muscle is like I still to this day love American Muscle for
I love
sure.
it too. Yeah.
But I think when I was younger, I was just like I didn't understand the hype behind like the Skylines, the Supras, the
Mm,
RX-7s. Like I never understood that. But as I've gotten older and I've seen a bunch of these cars at car meets or in movies, and
yeah,
actually because I really didn't start watching them till I was like maybe 14 or 15. So as I got into that college age, I'm just like, these cards are so sick. And I'm like, I would love
yeah.
to own either like a Supra or a Skyline. So,
And I was thinking, and I'm gonna quickly look this up. Um, but I think another thing that really helped Fast and Furious do well and really gain some momentum was something that was kind of related, but came out. I think it came out before. There's this video game called Gran Turismo,
mhm,
and it was on PlayStation. And so when you were, it kind of reminded me when you're talking about valuing JDM cars because we didn't really know about JDM cars until Gran Turismo came along, and then
mhm,
suddenly you were opened up to this whole world of
yeah,
Skylines and Evos and STIs and this and all
yeah,
this stuff that we didn't get here stateside, but we were winning races with them and we were trying to get them and we were customizing them on the video game and this and that. And so when Fast and Furious kind of arrived on the scene, it was like it was really cool to see those cars that you were spending so much time racing suddenly
yeah,
like movie characters were driving them, you know,
right,
and it did such it flipped the car culture upside down for JDM in particular. You know, I
right,
remember when that I think that movie it looked like that movie came out around 97. So that was like Gran Turismo came out in 97 and
mhm,
it looks like Fast and Furious came out in 2001. Well, in 97, that was almost the last year of the Toyota Supra that Vin Diesel
mhm,
drove. And I remember that because I was in college and I loved the Supra, and they could not give those cars away. You could get like crazy discounts on them.
mhm,
And then it was after that movie, it just so happened they stopped production of that Supra in 98. And then the
wow,
movie came out in '01. And then from '01, you can just see the trend line for the values of those cars, just
yeah,
that and the RX-7 and, you know, all of those JDM cars just started to take a turn. So I happened to get the RX-7 right as it was starting to go up.
mhm,
But the Supra and they had already taken off. The NSX was like, which is another favorite from that era. Like you could get those cars for like 18 grand. And now they're six-figure cars, you know? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, the movie franchise did a lot
yeah,
for that part of car culture.
yeah. I think that's cool, at least for car collectors, because like you, because you've owned the RX-7. I'm sure that the
Yeah,
value is gone very high, but
it has, but it's cool if you bought all that stuff before it went crazy. But if you're a car guy, like now I can't get them. Like
yeah,
they're too expensive. They're crazy.
yeah, yeah,
So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but yeah, it is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. Have you seen the Gran Turismo movie?
I have. I really
Yeah,
like that movie. I
yeah.
think that was another one that I don't know that it got a lot of commercial success, but I just watched it because it was streaming. I was like, let me just see it, and I ended up really enjoying that movie.
Do you know what it's called? I'm just curious.
Oh, the Gran Turismo movie. Oh, are you
Oh,
talking about the video game or the movie?
the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the movie was where they had the guy. They brought a bunch of contestants from the video games,
Mhm.
like a tournament, and then they put them in real cars, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was a
So
really enjoyable movie.
I thought, at least box office wise, I think it performed as well as I thought it was going to,
Oh,
because
okay.
it only did about 122 million, and their budget was 60 million. So they doubled it.
Yeah.
Um,
Once.
so
I don't know
um,
movie economics, but that seems pretty good.
yeah, no, it's pretty good. It came out in 2023, so um, I just feel like some movies nowadays, some movies are successful and the others are not. Even though when you watch them, you know, the story is not necessarily as good as the other ones that are doing successful. For
Yeah.
example, there was a movie called Project Hail Mary that just came out a few months ago,
Yeah.
and I saw the trailer of it and I was just like, I'm not gonna go watch this because I'm fairly selective with the movies that I go pay to watch in theaters. And
Mm.
to my surprise, that movie has done over $700 million in box office, and
Oh
I'm just
wow.
like, I don't understand why. Because my
That's
parents
the
were,
Ryan Gosling movie, right?
yep, yeah, my
Okay.
parents went to go watch that, and they were just like, it just felt like it was dragging on. I'm like, I could have told you that before you spent money on that, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the
How can you tell from a trailer that a movie's gonna drag?
that is a good question. I just think if it's already been done before,
Mm.
because it was just like another space sci-fi film. And I think I like Ryan Gosling, but I just think he's not handed the best roles. And so,
Mm.
and a lot of the times, what I've seen is that they don't write his character well enough.
Mm.
And so, if that is the case, it's kind of down to the writers of it, because like he was in the Barbie movie, and that movie did, I want to say, $1.2 billion in box office,
Oh wow.
and yeah, I watched that movie with my sisters. I absolutely hated that movie. Um, I think Ryan Gosling was the only good part of that movie, and
Oh
that's
no
because
kidding.
of the way that they wrote him in his character. Um, but especially if it's already been done before, and it's just like like the sci-fi genre, or like um, I, I guess like superhero movies or action, it can have, because it's been around for 2 decades, or these types of films have been around for so long, you can kind of get the general idea of what the story is going to look like. And so, even from
Yeah.
just watching the trailer, and also some of these newer movies, I think have way too much CGI. I think it's kind of overkill. And I'm wanting to bring back, hopefully, with my career, I'm wanting to bring back that early 2000s 2010s version of sci-fi, which is, or CGI, when like the Michael Bay with the original Transformers movies, because I think that was like peak CGI, and everything since then I feel like it just feels fake. um
What made it peak CGI? And the reason I ask is because I feel like that movie really hit me in a hard way, in a good way, because it was like I had seen the 80s,
Yeah,
original cartoons and stuff like that. And then for me, I feel like that when it came to life like that, that was like a moment because it connected the CGI. The effects were done well,
yeah,
and it connected to something in my childhood. And I
yeah,
feel like even with the Marvel movies, you see like they're really well done from the jump, but you also see like the evolution of like how smooth the animations are, how
yeah,
more well defined and stuff. So like I
yeah.
always enjoyed that whole journey too. But
Right.
I think it's because it connects back to something here. And if I watch a movie that doesn't connect to like a memory from my childhood or something that's outstanding brand new, then I kind of pick apart the technical
Right.
parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
But
agree
like for
because
you, what made that peak?
um okay, so if you're doing like a one-to-one comparison of like the very first Transformers movie that came out in 2007 to the newer one that came out, which was Rise of the Beast, I think that one came out in 2022 or 2023. Um, you could tell. I think that they animated the or sorry, they designed with the VFX. They designed it. How do I say this? Um, I still think that the original ones made it look the most authentic and real. Um, I feel like they had some good aspects of it in the newer one, Rise of the Beast, but I just think like what you're saying, they were able to bring, the OG show to life, and I think that the way that they designed and they uh, produced with the CGI, uh, when all the Transformers were transforming from their vehicle form to their actual form, I just think that that was just so iconic because of the
Yeah.
way that, especially the way that Michael Bay filmed those shots, because
Mm.
um, he's a very dynamic director. The way that he films his movies is very like intense,
Yeah.
and so the way that he would almost like I remember the first time that the Optimus transformed from a truck into his regular self. It was almost like they did this
Yeah.
360
Oh,
and
you
then
never forget that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
this slow motion to see, like, hold on, like, you need to show every single detail from like the bottom of his legs up to the top of his
Yeah.
face. And then to when he stooped down to the sand with Vicky and was talking to them, that felt real. As
Yeah.
opposed to like I always wanted them to make a movie after watching all of them about the war on Cybertron. Like I always
Mm.
wanted them to make a movie on it, but then they did, and it was an animated movie. I don't know if you've seen
Mm.
that. It was Transformers One. That one was. I will say though, as much as I wasn't a big fan of the animation style and the way that I wish that they had done that movie live action, but the story
Mm.
was very well done. And
Mm.
I think that was the only thing that kind of stood out to me from that film.
Yeah.
Um,
Because that was one of the things for me on the Michael Bay movies that was a little bit of a letdown, was the storyline wasn't terribly complex. And then all of those Transformer movies, even the first one, like the last battle scene was kind of
yeah,
like, it always felt too short, and
mm,
it always felt like it didn't give that battle climax that
yeah,
you would hope you would like. Megatron and Optimus would fight for like maybe 2 minutes, and it was
yeah,
just, and it was in the midst of all this other stuff going on. It was just
right,
like as part of the battle instead of like a central.
yeah,
Oh, this is going down. You know.
yeah. I will say though that one of the things I didn't like about the original Transformers movies was they had focused a lot on the human's perspective of
Yeah.
the Transformers.
Yeah.
Now thinking back, I did somewhat appreciate that. However, I just wish that they would solely focus on the Transformers, their origin story, why they're here on Earth,
Yeah. I
without
got.
without having to deal with all the humans nonsense. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
work around the government because and
Yeah.
to team up with the government because they had certain jurisdiction. I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Like these
Yeah,
are
yeah,
extraterrestrial beings. Like,
yeah,
um, I mean that kind of to a certain extent, like the Marvel characters kind of had to do the same thing. Like they had to kind of be regulated by the government, and then you're just like, but you're a
yeah,
superhero. You shouldn't have to do that.
yeah,
But then you have to face the real world consequences of when you destroy an entire city, and
yeah,
the humans are left, or the regular people are left to clean up the mess. It's kind of
yeah,
the same concept. And so I don't know. I think when it came to like what made it stand out to me, I used to watch an animated show of the Transformers. It was like early 2000s called Transformers Prime.
yeah.
Um,
I've watched
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love that show so much.
yeah, that was a
Um,
great show.
yeah, and to see, because I think I saw the first Transformers when I want to say 13 or 14. And just to see the way that everything just came to life, I was like, this is so much cooler when it's real life as opposed to like an animated show where they
Yeah,
have a certain squad and they have to stay within those characters because otherwise they have to write new characters and whatever.
yeah.
Um, but I that was super cool for me to see how they went
It,
from animated to real life and was
yeah,
able to tie in those different characters. I
yeah,
definitely wish that they added more characters from the show, even like the original Hasbro show. I wish that
yeah,
they added more characters, or
yeah,
that they didn't kill off certain characters.
yeah,
But and like I wish that they were. I know that like the constant rivalry or battle between Optimus and Megatron was like age old battle. But I kind of wish that they would kill him off after like the second one, and kind of a part of me wished that they would move on to the next villain, but somehow they were still always tied to Megatron. And even from
yeah.
1 to 6, he was still in all of them. And I'm like, okay,
Like
he's dying, and
yeah. Go ahead, finish your thought. Sorry.
yeah, and he was
He's
just they
dying in
kept
what?
they just kept bringing him back to life, and then
Yeah.
just a little bit different, and then yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
I think
feel
that's what.
like for somebody like me, I if they had killed off Megatron or Optimus early, I don't know that I would have watched the other ones.
Mm,
Because like I think because it was a TV show, the TV show got a chance for you to get really attached to the characters.
yeah,
And so when it comes to the movies, that's what makes it tough is you want to have those characters stick around because you're used to seeing them week in, week out.
yeah,
And there's so much inside of that, um, inside of that franchise that's like, how do you, I mean, it should be movies for decades. You know what I
right,
mean? Because there's
right,
so much there. But like this two central figures, like even in the animated series when they brought, like the next generation on, it kind of didn't hit the same way
yeah,
just because the central characters weren't there. And that was one of the things that I really liked about what they did with the Marvel series or the cinematic universe, at least with the first 20 films,
yeah,
was you always like through the post-credit scenes, through the mixing and like they layered things on, and these characters were like a constant presence, whether they were main characters or whether they were like peripheral characters. And they started off with you understanding each of their backstories and their movie, and so
right,
when they came together for Avengers or when they came together for Civil War or when they came together for all these other ones, it's like you're already in it. You know what I mean? You're with these characters and you're attached to them and
right,
you get to be with them for 15 to 20 movies. You know what I mean?
right,
And I feel like that's part of what made Endgame so powerful. Like
yep,
you're just so vested in these characters. You spent 20 movies getting to know them, looking at their, getting to see their struggles and their victories, and you get to see the villains and
right,
and it all comes together in this thing, and you're just like, whoa. And
yep,
like I feel like what because I love Batman too, and I love Superman too, and I feel like what DC where they fell flat is they didn't take the time to build that
Yeah,
relationship. They tried to cram it all into one movie, and you're like, oh, this feels like the Batman versus Superman. Like that should have been the eighth or ninth movie. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Because you had no chance to get like attached to any of those characters,
yeah,
and then they all team up and then there's this huge villain and then one of like Superman, you're just like, whoa, this was
yeah,
way too much for
yeah,
like one movie, and then you just kind of walk away feeling like, well, that was all right, you
yeah,
know. And think
yeah,
about how you felt when you walked away from Endgame. You're like,
mhm, yeah,
you know, like they rolled
yeah,
those credits and you just felt like a phase of your life just ended,
mhm,
you know.
yeah. I really did. Yeah, yeah. I think with DC, I wasn't always the biggest fan of DC. I watched. I saw the Justice League Snyder cut. That was like, I'm pretty sure, my first DC movie. So I watched it was done in order.
Yeah,
But I, if I did a straight up comparison of, and even like the first Avengers and Justice League, the Snyder cut was 3 hours.
yeah,
Um, and I'd never seen a movie that long before. And then I watched it, and I was just like, it just felt so underwhelming. Like it was
yeah,
not that effective as like, because you saw Bruce Wayne like recruiting everybody, and not everybody having their own oppositions and not wanting to join in whatever.
yeah,
And I think the powerful part about the Avengers movie is that they had something that brought them together, and that was the death of Phil Coulson. That was just like, we're
mhm,
avenging him, and we have to
mhm,
obviously save the city, save the world from impending doom. That was the thing that united them and finally took them after much opposition to be like, all right, fine, let's just do this. But
yeah,
with it did, I felt like with Justice League, it didn't have that same level of
yeah,
conviction,
yeah,
where it's like it was clear as day as to what their mission was. I did not get that feel of it. And besides the fact
mhm.
that it was 3 hours, I'm just like, I watched a 3 hour movie for what?
Yeah,
Um,
and that should have been 3 movies, is what it
right,
should have been. Yeah,
right. But I will say, if there is one specific movie series that did do it right, that was Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
oh, dude.
That one he
Oh
did
my
well.
gosh.
Um,
Yeah, yes. I've rewatched that series probably more than I should care to admit. Like, it's
yeah,
yeah, that is hands down probably. Yeah, you can just watch it straight. That's 10 hours of movies that you could
yeah,
just watch straight, no problem.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean, I do definitely think that DC was fortunate enough to hire Christopher Nolan to be the director of those films.
yeah,
Um, because I think also another one of DC's problem is that they lack a lot of continuity issues. Like
yeah,
it from when they first started back in like, I want to say the first. Well, no, DC's been around for a while because they've had like six different Batmans. Um, they just like they lack wanting to stick with one actor, one director, and have some sort of like build up moment. Because
I
the Justice
yeah,
League, the Justice League's, or sorry, DC's version of Thanos was Darkseid, and so that should have been the end game moment. However, you kind of like consolidated, like you said, a lot of information and a lot of screen time into, I want to say, maybe 3 to 5 movies as opposed to over 10.
yeah,
Um, I mean, they had like certain origin movies like Aquaman and Wonder Woman. I would have liked to see an origin story of the
yeah,
Flash and
yeah,
Cyborg,
yeah. Because
but
Aquaman and Wonder Woman, they were good origin movies. Like,
yeah,
actually, I enjoyed those. It was just yeah, to your point, it feels like they weren't playing the long game so they could
yeah,
arrange these. You know what I
right,
mean? And say, "Hey, we're gonna." layer these so that the viewers, the audience is like they're bought in on
Yeah,
what we're building, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, they didn't do that. And I think that's what made it disappointing to me. Also, I think
Yeah,
it's because I was comparing it to Marvel. I'm just like,
I know.
it's not good. This
It's
is
it's
what am
kind
I
of like
watching?
being, yeah, it's kind of like being Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan's in the league. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Right,
You could be as good as you want to be.
right.
It's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they keep rolling out these Batman movies because they know that people are going to watch it, and that's the only. I think that's the only reason why. And
Yeah.
I do think that they may have something good going if they continue to let James Gunn continue to write the movies and direct the movies and produce the movies that he wants to.
What was the DC movie he did?
So he did. He's okay. So he's been in charge. He's the co CEO or co head of DC. He's been there
Oh,
for 3 years, 2 or 3 years, and so
okay. 'Cause
he
he did
did.
the Guardians franchise, right?
Yes, yeah. And
Okay.
so after that, after he built up a phenomenal reputation, um, he did the Superman movie, and then after that, he did.
The
He's
most recent Superman movie.
yes, yes.
I actually like that one.
Okay, I didn't
Did you
watch
not
it,
like that one? Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't watch it. Yeah, I don't know because I was comparing it to Man of Steel, and just like it just didn't have that. Because Henry Cavill to me will always be
Oh,
Superman,
yeah. Yeah,
right? And then
that's true.
Christian Bale will always be
Yeah,
Batman.
it's
Like you
hard to
can
beat
have
him. Yeah,
20 different Batman and Superman characters, but
yeah,
to certain audience members like myself, you're gonna have one
yeah,
person that is clearly better than everybody
totally,
else because they
totally.
just embody that role and they were written so much better.
Yeah, yeah.
And so after that, he's releasing he's coming out with two movies this year. There's Supergirl, and then he's coming out with Clayface. So that should be interesting because Clayface is actually going to be DC's first ever horror movie. So that'll be
Oh,
interesting.
okay,
Um, yeah, I've they haven't introduced Clayface yet in the DC universe to my knowledge, and that should be interesting. But Supergirl, the way that they filmed it and the way that the trailer looks, it gave me Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, and I think that's one
okay.
thing that I appreciate about James Gunn is that he has this style. This
He
like
puts the humor in there too.
he does, but I think it's like he ties in this like old school, um, I guess, style on his filmmaking, where you have these older elements, we have these cool spaceships. You're including older music in this futuristic sci-fi film. You still have great storytelling. I think one thing I appreciate about him is the fact that he doesn't sacrifice production quality with good writing.
Mm,
'Cause I think that's what a lot of major studios have suffered with,
mm,
or sorry, struggled with. And I
yeah,
think that's a part of the reason as to why movies nowadays between Marvel and DC, people are kind of getting this like the term is superhero fatigue, where it's just like,
mm,
okay, we've seen this kind of over and over again. Like, can we try to switch it up? But like the problem or the good thing about movies back in the early 2000s was that Disney was super tight on their budget. When they released the first Iron Man movie, if I remember correctly, their budget was I want to say 10 to 20 million dollars. And
mm.
their budget for if you compare that to Avengers Endgame, their budget for Endgame was $350 million.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you do a straight up comparison, obviously Endgame was Endgame. It was very well done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they knew what to do with it.
Right, exactly, because they were
Yeah,
building up for it for 12 years.
yeah.
But I think what I appreciate about the original Iron Man was the fact that John Favreau, the director, he did such a good job with the way that they they had a lot of restrictions due to the lack of funding, and they were taking a gamble on Robert Downey
Yeah,
Jr.
yeah,
because of his criminal
yeah.
history.
He had been coming out of his own thing. Yeah,
Right, so they were taking a pretty big gamble taking him on, and so because they had to make more with less, I think that's what made it so successful. And if
yeah,
not for that film, the MCU would not exist.
yeah.
People
Probably
have
not.
said that for 20
But
years.
yeah, and I feel like and this I feel like this has to do with budget, but the when you don't have budget, then you have to lean on something. It can't be technical, and it can't be, super crazy locations. And oftentimes what I feel like the greats do is they rely on storytelling. If you
Yeah,
can tell a good story and you can get your audience attached to the character early on and bought in and aligned with, like, I want to see this guy succeed,
yeah,
like, and then you can take them through an intricate story. It's super cool. Like, I remember when, like, Christopher Nolan is so good at that. Like, I think the first movie I saw of his, and I saw it just casually, was Inception.
mm,
And I know he's made movies before that. I went back and watched some of those, but
yeah,
like, it was like this perfect blend of like CGI, crazy dream world, intricate storytelling,
yeah,
like mysterious characters, but you were bought in on seeing one guy succeed from
right,
early in the movie. And like a lot of the time you see, like with superheroes, I think Iron Man did an awesome job of that. Is like Robert Downey Jr. Stuck in a like he's high flying and then he's low flying,
yeah,
and then it's a complex story, but you're pretty early hooked in on this guy. You're like, he's
yeah,
cool. He makes do with nothing. He befriends a guy like genuinely. He has a good heart, and those things come together. And you're like, I want to see this guy succeed.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree because I just feel like that's what's been such the downfall of Hollywood and just movies in general is the fact that people have to accommodate everybody's feelings and emotions and how they want certain movies to be. And back when the original Iron Man came out back in 2007, I mean, they were probably in production in 2005, 2006. There was not as such, there, like social media kind of really didn't exist. And there was no real issue with like censorship or trying to hurt anybody's feelings. But
Mm.
you could, and also like you didn't have a politically correct story. You could really just write whatever you wanted. And so when you have all these different issues now in 2026, you're just like, okay, why are we tying in all these political issues and racial issues and ideology issues and theology issues into these films where just like people just want to watch a movie to watch a movie. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to think about all these different things unless if it's specifically for that movie.
yeah,
But if it's like an action movie, like okay, for example, um, people were wanting after Iron Man had technically died in Endgame, you know, people were wanting Spider-Man to take up his mantle, and so in Spider-Man, Far From Home, and then No Way Home, you really saw how he like struggled with um, the loss of Tony, and
yeah,
so after that they tried to bring in another character who was comic book accurate. Who was her name is Riri Williams, and um, she was a black girl who was also very smart. She was a high school kid. However, the way that they wrote her character, um, you should watch clips of it yourself so you can understand what I'm saying. But um, they were almost like taking a stab at Tony Stark's original writing, saying like one of the lines was Do you think Tony Stark would be Iron Man if he wasn't a millionaire or billionaire or whatever? But then they're
Mm,
just like, time out. Do you remember the original writing that you wrote 20 years ago? Which was he built that in a cave with nothing.
mm,
So he really
mm,
wasn't a billionaire when he became Iron Man. And
mm,
so they tried to take up this mantle, and they did they brought her in two movies. They brought her in Black Panther 2 and then in her own show Ironheart. They tried to portray her as if she was taking up this Iron Man mantle. However, I didn't even watch it because I've seen enough clips and watched enough reviews to see how, even if you just look up the straight up comparison, there's so much CGI that that's what I'm saying. It looks fake. So with
mm.
the advancements of CGI and VFX artists, like they're very good at what they do. However, because of these endless budgets, where it just seems like they're just throwing money, like it's ridiculous. They're just like, let's just do as much as we can, and with that, it almost becomes fake
Yeah,
where it didn't seem as real as the original Iron Man when he was piecing on his suit and they were drilling in the bits to his arm and his leg and his
yeah,
faceplate came on. Like the
yeah,
detail is not there.
yeah. You
So
know,
it is,
the same thing is, so what I'm hearing you say, and I agree with it, is with big budgets, they're trying to wow you with
yeah,
technical components, and they're kind of shorting on the story
yeah,
and the cinematography and like the art of making a movie and drawing an audience in. The same thing is happening with cars, as cars get more and more electronically laden, and for safety reasons or for cool factor reasons or whatever, they just keep putting more and more tech. And what guys who like to drive are having a hard time with is the that gets put out has a lot of cool convenience and safety features, but it loses the enjoyment of the drive.
right,
Like the basics aren't there. Like the steering
yeah,
doesn't feel that great, and the power delivery isn't the same. The car is too heavy to feel like it can do it. In
right,
the quest for all this technical wow,
yeah,
they
yeah,
kind of lost, the core of what it is has degraded.
right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think with cars, it's just become kind of depressing to be like a car enthusiast now because I'm finally at this point where me and other Gen Z kids are like, okay, you know, we're adults now. We can go out and buy cars. I feel like I wouldn't even want to buy like a 2026 car because I'm
Mhm.
not happy with like any of these designs. And it to me, it just feels like a bunch of the OG, like within the past 20 to 30 years of car designers. I just feel like they're all on strike, and they're just, I don't know who they are or if they got fired or retired or whatever, but the designers of these cars nowadays, between BMW, Mercedes, Audi, um, you name it, these car brands are not as peak as it was back in like the early 2000s, 2010s. Like it just doesn't hit anymore. These cars with all these EV regulations and like personally, I want to hear the roar of a car. Like that's all I want to hear. It
Yeah,
has to have a good exhaust. It has a handle wall. When I put my foot to the floor, I want it to launch. And with an EV, yes, you can still do that. However, like you said, I want to hear it. If I can't
yeah,
hear it and I can't feel the responsiveness of the car, if I can't, get the quick shifting of it, and that I mean they're not even making manuals anymore. Like car
yeah,
enthusiasts, they like the manuals. If I could physically drive a manual, I would drive a manual.
yeah,
Um, but it's the fact that they're going away with that, and honestly, they're not listening to the community, and it's not even like the community itself. They're not even listening to their target audience, like who is actually buying their products. they're not even listening to them anymore because they just want to design whatever they want to design. For example, the Ferrari Luce that just came out. If you, I hate that car so much because a $640,000 MSRP for an electric Ferrari is absolutely insane. People were saying if you slapped a Toyota sticker on there, it'd be worth $40,000. I
Mm.
mean, and people would probably buy that because if you, it looks like to me like the electric version of the Prius, like just uglier and with a $640,000 MSRP. Like that's crazy. So I don't know. It's to me, I'm like 2020, 2021 is kind of when cars to me kind of just started going downhill real fast. Now there are
Mm.
still a few good ones. I still think that car makers like GM and Porsche, um, some car makers they still got it right, but some German car brands they are very lost, and they have to listen. They have to listen to the people who are buying their cars, and if they're not, their stocks are going to go down, and they're going to start losing a ton of
So
money.
so
But
here's what I've kind of learned, and I would say it's an encouragement to Gen Zers. Um, but it's so if we took that to the BMW board and we told them that, I think what they would probably push back and tell us is look at our sales figures over the last 10 years. Like you guys, the enthusiasts, make up a very small subsection of what we sell.
mm,
So that's why we create the M line for you guys. That's why
right,
Mercedes creates the AMG line. Like for you guys, like you're gonna have to pay a premium for that product.
yeah,
But our goal is not to make a product just for the guys who like to hear their cars.
yeah,
Our goal is to make the most money possible. Now, if you
yeah,
look at that as the objective, BMW, Audi, these guys have done pretty well,
yeah,
right? And so, if you take a step back, what most people want is something where the car hooks up to their phone, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it like insulates you. It's like the complete opposite of what we want. And
yeah,
they're the ones that go out and buy and lease these new cars. Typically, people like us come in and buy the cars secondhand. Now, there's
yeah,
a group of rich people like us that will go out and buy the Porsches and buy the
yeah,
Ferraris. But for Ferrari, it's coming out with the Luce. It's like, well, what's going to tell whether it's a success or not is if they sell all of them or
right,
sell enough to make money on it. And I think there's enough people out there with that kind of money that don't want like a traditional. So what's happening? I've been doing a fair bit of reading on this. That Luce had kind of sparked a bunch of articles around it and perspectives. And what the companies are saying is we're trying to expand our audience. Like we know you guys are here, the ones who like our sports cars, you guys will keep buying and yada yada. But if we want to make more money, we've got to expand. That's why Porsche built an SUV,
yeah,
right? And that's why they built a four door. I mean, they didn't just stick with sports cars because when they just stuck with sports cars, they were borderline bankrupt when it was just the enthusiasts and the tinkerers that were buying cars. When they really started making money is when they came out with the Cayenne, the Macan, Panamera to a lesser degree. And BMW and Audi and all these guys are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to, but that's why they keep bringing, like back in the day, if you were buying a Mercedes, you were pretty much you bought an S class or an E class or the convertible. Like you just got to make the money to buy one. And then
yeah,
they introduced the C class, and then they introduced the A class. They kept going down market. Why? It's cheapening the brand, so to speak, but it's also bringing new people in. So their idea is, hey, if I can get you in on a C class when you're 25, 30, and you like the car, you're probably going to be a Mercedes. You're going to gravitate towards Mercedes the rest of your life.
mm,
So while we may not like where all this stuff is going, from a business, if you're on the other side of the fence as a
right,
business, You're like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but we're making money. The other
Yeah.
thing is like I used to be like I am just like the same way in terms of I like hearing the rumble of V8. I like the JDN stuff and this and that. But I will say like these new cars, um, like they're more technically competent, you know?
Yeah.
And I would say that in certain ways, like the EVs and stuff, while they're not particularly my style, if I had a daily commute, I would totally get one. It's
Mm.
like so easy to live with. I don't have to worry about it almost serves me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where I'm used to serving the car, making
Mhm.
sure this is done, that's done. Yeah. Every time I go for a drive, is everything up to snuff and all of that. So I feel like there's a role for this new stuff. Um, if you're willing to give it space to kind of be its own thing,
Yeah.
and it's kind of you get to a point with cars where you kind of like just appreciate it for what it is.
Hmm.
Most cars are not going to be for you and me, but they didn't make most cars for you and me. They're trying to cover a huge audience. So it's for somebody. And
Yeah.
you'll see some of them that are commercial flops just because they didn't appeal to anybody.
Right.
But most of them appeal to a certain kind of person, you know. Um, yeah. So, but I was gonna say the good news for Gen Zers is like, hey, if you don't like the new stuff that's out, there's always old stuff out there you can buy.
Yeah.
It'll cost a
Exactly.
lot less money, and there are probably people within a certain radius of where you live that will service that car.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Like I drive my newest car is a 2009, and most of my cars come from the 90s.
Mm.
So, and it's
That's
like,
probably a good year you got them from.
yeah, and that's just because that's what floats my boat. I like T-tops, I like sunroofs, I like old school needles and like
Yeah.
speedometer needles, and I'm not big on digital displays, and I like exhaust noises, I like turbos, I like noisy car. That's kind of my jam. So,
Mm.
um, I had the choice to go out and buy those cars. It may involve a little more work to own them, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you could have one of those, and then you can have an EV that you don't have to worry about at all.
Yeah.
You know. So I think there's a lot of for people who love cars. There's a lot of hope because we have a lot of choice. With movies, it's kind of like we just take what they give us. You know.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing good out there, it just kind of sucks for us because we don't have anywhere else to go for
Yeah.
movies. Um, but for cars, at least you got options.
Yeah. 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 I think after I'm done with college, uh, that my next car is definitely going to be a truck. That's what I want. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Are
looking
you
at
a
either
are you a regular? Yeah, go ahead.
a Tacoma or a Tundra.
Okay.
I my dream truck is a TRX, but um, I think in order to keep it reliable and to hold on to it for a little bit, Toyota's probably going to be the best route. Um, I mean, and it's not big enough, but we can still use it to go to the dump or help someone move or something like that with like even a Tacoma.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting a truck for a while. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Anybody I know that has a truck hasn't regretted it. If I was getting a truck, it would be the first gen Raptor. I think it's like it's reliable. It gets zero gas mileage, but it's a
yeah,
good sized truck. It does what
yeah,
I want. It's comfortable enough. It's fast.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of, and you can get them for like under right around 20 grand now, so they're not
mm,
terribly expensive.
yeah, yeah. So I guess a slight pivot, I guess. Um, so I've been running my own business for almost a year as of next month, which is crazy. And so I've been learning a lot about, at least within the video space, um, I've been learning a lot how a lot of experienced videographers and agency owners they say to not focus on or not just do whatever you can get your hands on, because that's what I did for honestly the past year, where I
Mhm.
just took whatever gig I could get, and more often than not, those that I tried to keep on as like a retainer client, they did not work, and I I worked with more salon suites than I would
Okay.
care to admit, and so I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I hate this so much,
Okay.
because and the reason I bring that up is because as I've been learning a lot more, and I feel like that's the the plus side of resources like YouTube, where you can just learn anything, and
Mhm.
learn from all these different experienced people who have been doing this for quite some time and they have a successful business. And you don't have to buy a course from all of them, but they're giving this information away for free. Um, but what I've been learning is that you gotta stick to one thing and you gotta just get good at
Mhm.
that one thing. Because if you do all these different things like what I've been doing, I'm stretching myself really thin.
Mhm.
And I've honestly I like be learning how to become a business owner. That's what I like. I
Mhm.
like learning about how to delegate work, and learning how to wanting to learn how to scale. This is the same thing with like my production company and my film career have kind of gone hand in hand a little bit because as I've been producing short films and different documentary projects, I've been running my business in addition to that. But I'm wanting to continue doing that. However, I've been figuring out the niche side of owning a business because you can't just do whatever you want. I mean, you can, but it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research and also something that like I'd really enjoy because I do not enjoy working with hairstylists, or salon suites. It's kind of sucked. Um, but obviously working with them has given me a lot of experience, and I'm thankful for that. But I think more than that, it's kind of helped me understand what I don't want and what I'm okay with and what I'm actually passionate about and what I want to start being able to really start a business from. Because I feel like the past year I've kind of been on like what how much can I learn while I'm still in school and while I'm still operating this business. I think starting my business while still in school, even for the remainder, when I started it last year for 2 years of just being in school, has been probably the best thing so that I am still able to do that with the security of being at home and, living under my parents' roof and being able to go to different shoots, learn, get paid for a few one off projects. That's been great. Um, and it's definitely served its purpose, especially since I haven't been able to find just part time work within the past year of being in school. Like it's been terrible just trying to find part
Mhm.
time work. And so
Okay.
definitely my business has helped a lot, but at least for those one off paychecks. But I'm pivoting more towards the automotive space because that's I think where my true passion is. Um, but also I do also kind of want to keep this at a realistic level. As much as I would love to pursue my passions for the rest of my life, I still have to be able to pay off my student loans. I still have to be able to support myself and a future family. These are
Sure.
things that I'm learning and praying about for the past, uh, year. And so, wanting to dive a lot deeper into the automotive videography space has been something I've been thinking about and praying about because I just as far as I can remember, all I could remember is I've always been interested in cars, and especially because I've developed this passion and skill for videography and production from pre to post, and being able to. I know people that I would love to outsource to and be able to help them out, and then being able to grow that and scale, and vice versa. But um, I guess within this space, learning how to market myself is kind of a bit of a challenge because what I've been learning is, yeah, at least starting out, you have to start out by going to a few different car shows, collecting footage, enough footage to just create some simple reels, and then um, be able to put that on your social medias and your website, and then being able to reach out to people at car shows and be like, hey, I'd love to do a video for you, or yeah, then being able to um, reach out to like dealerships and garages and all, because all these places I think require social media content. I
Sure.
think because I think all businesses, the way that the 21st century is right now, the best way to leverage your business is with social media. So that's kind of where I come in, hopefully, where I can utilize my skills to help other businesses, because I've been helping businesses build up their social media platforms, but I feel like now I'm kind of wanting to do this a lot more specialized. And so I guess I just wanted to hear your overall thoughts, because this isn't something that I've just like come up with. This is something I've been thinking about and praying about for a while, and
Yeah.
a lot of research on. And there's obviously a lot more to learn, a lot more research to be done. But I'm this is kind of what I wanted my summer to look like, I guess, before I go into my senior year, because come next spring, I'm graduating with my bachelor's. Now, my plan A when I first started college was to be able to run my business full time as soon as I graduate. However, I quickly learned, after not being able to land clients and retainer clients, that running a business like that was not sustainable right off the bat, right out of getting out of college. And
Hmm.
so, what's been recommended to me and advised to me is learning how to do that on the side, in addition to getting a full-time job with the degree that I got, and then being able to build that up. And in the event that I can run that business full-time and it is a sustainable income, I'm going to do that. But
Yeah.
until that day, until that day comes, I'm still gonna go out, get a full time job, whatever that looks like, and then just during the weekends or something like that, be able to just continuously grow and build in my skills and be able to grow my clientele until it gets to the point where it is sustainable. It's like I can be able to afford to pay my bills and pay off student debt, be able to support a future wife and family, But as of right now, that's kind of where my head is at, and because it's taken some time to pivot from just wanting to do anything. Because with other production companies within the DFW area, even in like the city of Dallas, like if you look at their websites, they have done anything and everything, between documentaries, promotional content, testimonials, working with so many different brands. And I'm just like, okay, you guys are like all over the place. Is there something in particular that you guys are specializing in? And they specialize in everything. So I'm like, okay, I'd prefer to focus on one area. And if that one area is one thing, and I really boil down the past 21 years of my life with the one thing that I'd love to do and has remained a constant in my life, constant passion, is cars. So, and I know that there is a market for it. It's just finding the right people to connect with, and who do they know and who they know to help me along with that journey. Because I know it's going to take some time. I'm not expecting that by the time I graduate next spring, this is going to be on back to plan A. I'm anticipating that I will have to have a backup plan, and this is just something that I'll run on the side until it becomes a full time thing. So,
Okay. So what is that's a lot of great background. I'm glad you told that story. I guess I'm wondering like where do you think I can help? Are you looking to see if it's the right decision to have a job and that on the side versus starting with a business? or are you looking for insight on something else?
Both, because I think at this point, the dream is to run the business full time. However, as my family likes to tell me a lot, I have to be realistic, and I totally agree. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Um, but with being realistic, I have to kind of like, how can I improve myself and do everything that I can by getting internships, getting any certifications to make myself more marketable, to get a part-time job or full-time job, either while still in school, and then being able to grow this slowly over time. Because it's realistically, it may happen in a year, but it may not.
Yeah.
Um, so what can I do on my end to make sure I'm doing everything that I can? But
Yeah. I feel like, okay, so this conversation might go beyond the podcast, but generally speaking, I do favor the approach of having something steady while you work on building the dream. And the reason I say that is because you want to be in a position of strength when you're making decisions.
yeah,
So when you're desperate for just income to put bread on the table, you'll make business decisions that aren't really healthy for you. And then if a couple of years down the road, your business is going to be in a place where you're like, man, I didn't think it would turn into this. Where if you have your needs met and you're building a business deliberately and you can afford to go slow and you can afford for the process to play out because you're not lacking for bread,
yeah,
then you can make much more clear and definitive decisions that stay within vision. Okay. Now, when we talk about getting your needs met, that doesn't necessarily have to be a job. Like, I know you don't like doing the nail salon stuff,
yeah,
but if if that's become a steady stream of income for you,
yeah,
and you can live off in that and then some, then the good news is you can start charging. Now because you're starting to build a little niche. It might be a niche you don't want, right?
yeah,
But because it's your business, you can build out that niche and then hand it off to somebody to run. You
mm,
still own the business and the business line, but you don't
yeah,
have to do work. You just oversee it to make sure, hey, this reflects my company well, right?
okay,
So let's say, and I'm using simple math here, you charge a nail salon $1,000 to do, 6 months worth of work or a month worth of work. $1,000 a month, they get a couple of reels and whatever. Okay. Then what you can go do is look for somebody that will do that same work for $700. And so then now you don't have to go to the nail salon, put the reel together, do all this and all that for something you don't really like, but you still pocket through. And it still becomes a business line that can grow. So now your job is to grow the business line rather than doing nail salon visits,
yeah,
right? Okay, so that's option one is the traditional go get a job, do this on the side. Option two is, hey, you kind of already have something that's starting to grow. I know you
hmm
don't like the subject matter, but that doesn't mean you can't keep it. That just means you can delegate it, right? And
hmm
then you can capture the money for your business
hmm
and then have it grow out. Because what if it becomes, I'm exaggerating, what if it becomes $1 million business line? Well, you're not going to feel as bad about nail salons because you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
care. You can have a team of people that can work it, and then
yeah,
you can, while you're working on growing the nail salon stuff, you can explore automotive. You can explore, and now you have a catalog. And on the car stuff. So what? Here's how I would kind of walk through it with you is to say, okay, um, I don't like the idea of putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay, so but I do like narrowing it down. So instead of doing anything and everything other than automotive, what kind of sectors or industries or organizations do you feel like you would be more enthusiastic about? It may not be your huge passion or as much of a passion as automotive, but it's up there, like you like it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, for example, maybe it's nonprofit work, right? Maybe it's things around filmmaking, companies that make equipment, companies that perform services. You're really interested and you nerd out over the technical details of a particular camera
Yeah.
or, a gyro rig or something like that, right? So there's probably going to be 2 or 3 areas where you feel high levels of interest. And then there's going to be stuff that you're just like, I just don't even want to touch that.
Mhm.
And then there's going to be a layer of stuff that, like, if somebody paid me enough, I'd do that, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to go pursue it, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so um, what would you say? Automotive is one. What would occupy spaces 2 and 3? Do you know off the bat, or would you have to think about it?
I would probably say probably event coverage,
Like
and
weddings and stuff, or
it wouldn't just be weddings, but like either like quinceañeras, birthday parties,
okay,
um, just general event coverage. Um, and third one would probably be probably promotional videos. Um, I guess that's kind of
tell
broad.
tell me about, yeah, that covers a lot of space. So what it promotional videos for what?
I'm no, mm, probably gonna say like for products or services. Um, like if a small business is like rolling out a new product, I would probably want to help them with that. And I have to a certain extent before, or branching out from like the place that they've been working at and kind of doing their own thing. I've done that as well, but I guess that's kind of three. I guess I
Are
know
there
that's
are there particular kinds of products?
yeah. I would love to say camera gear. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Anything else?
I think that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Okay. Um, okay, so that's a good. I had a couple. I feel like filmmaking should be in there just
Yeah,
because of what I know about you, because you're in the details of that enough, and you have enough of opinion around that. So those kind of things. Okay, so but it's not necessarily promotional unless one of your friends is doing some films. So Um, okay, so I'm going to add filmmaking, and that includes, you know, gear, storytelling, cinematography, the art of filmmaking.
yeah,
Okay, so let's just take those for now. That list could change over time. And then you've got nail salons, which is kind of, would you say that you have a steady stream of business from that? Like you could grow
no,
that out and it could be, okay. So then we can take it off. If it's not a moneymaker for you, then okay.
I did at one point, but those clients have fallen
Yeah.
off at least
Have
for a few
they
weeks.
told you why? Has it just been like they didn't see the performance that they were hoping for?
Well, okay, so the thing about and it's salon suites. That's like hairstylists and not
Okay.
nail salons. So with salon suites and with hairstylists, um, the issue I was running into with actually both clients I worked with over the span of 10 months is the fact that they didn't have subjects to film, and so
Mm.
that was actually a pretty big issue. At least with my most recent client, he was um, a hairstylist, and so he would work with the high end Dallas community, but he wanted to start advertising for people who weren't necessarily in the wealthy end of the tax bracket.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the issue that he was running into is that he couldn't find subjects to film. So he would put out stories on Instagram saying, "If you're a model, just wanting to get your hair done, while we do like 1 to 3 reels, like DM me and I'll let you know and see if we can make that happen." That never happened. He never found anybody, and I think that was just such a big challenge because some people may not like to be on camera, um, and that was a pretty big issue, which is why that client kind of slowly ended out. And then, kind of at the same time, it was um, I was potentially in the works with a church, and they needed help with their social media. And then, as time went on, and I came up with a plan to help them consistently as a retainer client, and providing different options for them, what that would look like, they just completely ghosted me. And I
Mm.
reached out for roughly about a month every single
Mhm.
week, and they just completely ghosted me. They paid me for the one project that I did for them, and I was just
Okay.
like, okay, that's great, but when I met up with their team, they made it clear as day they really needed help with their social media content
Mhm.
because their numbers for their church had been going down slowly over time, and so they
Okay.
needed a way to kind of branch out and reach out to people of my generation and with people outside of just Facebook, but Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
Mhm.
and what that
Mhm.
would look like, and just making content and consistently for them. I came up with the plan. I was ready to tell them of this plan and the other options I had for retainer projects. But then I think over time, and this is kind of like the downside of like the two sidedness of working with the church, especially from a third party business perspective, is that they may not be able to afford my prices,
Yeah.
and especially for a consistent retainer. And I'm not trying to like become so cheap that somebody else could do it
Right.
for cheaper, but also spending enough, especially for travel time, because they were all the way out in, I want to say, Mesquite, so it's like an hour away. So
Mhm.
the travel time and then those shooting days, what that would look like, pre-production, so what type of videos we would need, and then going there, filming that, and then editing it, sending it back to them, making sure that I was charging enough, but obviously not little enough where I wasn't even like breaking even. I didn't want that.
Right.
But then
Right.
I realized that, especially as a church with smaller numbers, especially dwindling over time, they're not getting as much tithe and
Mhm.
offering, and so they're they need to keep on their staff. That obviously that's priority number one in maintaining the church, obviously. But something like this would kind of come second, especially when they could theoretically do all this themselves.
Yeah.
They just I just had the expertise behind working with that because I've worked with clients before, but that was what kind of helped. That but after that specific one, I kind of wanted to avoid, especially with my business, perhaps not with my career, but with my business, staying away from potentially working with churches because they may not be able to afford prices
Yeah.
within the production and the video production field, because you can get fairly cheap, but then somebody could do it at that price or cheaper.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and you obviously want somebody local, but I don't know. That's what I learned from that, because I'm just like, okay, there's obviously not everybody is able to afford my very well researched and well thought out prices. Where I just I didn't just come up with a number, but it was a
Mhm.
lot of research and researching the market around me and what that would look like.
Yeah.
But that's what it would look like. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of thoughts on that. So if
Yeah.
you don't have kind of a growing service line inside of your business right now, then I would say, um, yeah, find a job within the industry.
Yep.
Uh, and even if it's full time, you'll have time to work on stuff. Like the nature of what you do, like
Mhm.
you can use nights and weekends to do the work. It's not like you're having to work within business hours.
Yeah.
Um, that's the beauty of what you do. So, um, and the second reason I would say find a job within the industry is it just gets you in the door.
Yeah.
Like you get to put something on your resume with a company that hopefully is a little more substantial and recognizable in the industry, or you're doing video work for a company that,
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, somebody actually hired you because they thought you were good. So, but I think the overarching thing is I would want your mind frame to be in a strong place so that you can afford to refuse business that you don't want to pursue and
Yeah.
wait for business that you do want to pursue.
Yeah.
And that becomes really difficult when the business is what puts bread on your table.
Mhm.
Um, on the one hand, like it depends on the kind of person you are. If you're on the one hand, if you respond positively to the pressure and you just go get sales, and you
Yeah.
can go get clients, that's one thing. I would be more inclined to say, hey, maybe you need the pressure to like jumpstart this thing and you don't have a plan B. If you don't
Yeah.
respond well to the pressure and you make weak business choices because you just need cash, then I
Yeah.
would say take care of your cash first and then pursue the other stuff, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so then it becomes a matter of starting with, okay, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind of
Yeah.
person that once screws are down and the pressure is on, you can go get the business that you need to get and still say no to the other stuff and just wait until it happens? Or are you the kind of person that's like, no, I need to pay my loans, I need to do this and that, and whatever it takes, I'm just going to take whatever business I can get? Well, either approach is okay, but just it depends on how convicted about your direction you are. Because if you just take any business that comes along, at some point you're gonna have to refuse the business you don't want. And
Yeah.
if you're good at that, great. If you're not good at that, then maybe build up what you want slowly so you don't have to say no to clients later.
Right.
Um, and then I would look at how much money you need to survive and save a little bit,
Mhm.
you know, and invest in your business. So
Yeah.
that'll give you an idea of like, well, what kind of job do I need and how much time would that job take?
Right.
I think as far as like the automotive, the event, and the promotional, um, no, so I would say even in the just in the automotive space, let's just look at that. Uh, I feel like a lot of us, when we think of the automotive space, we think of, oh, I want to do stuff for Car and Driver, or I want to do stuff for, Jalopnik, or, Road and Track, or, these big things. There's
Mhm.
so many automotive based businesses that are local that you could just walk up to and be like, hey, do you guys have a social media manager? Do you guys
Yeah.
have a this? Do you have a video crew, that does your do you want to do podcasts? Like, are you guys doing something interesting enough that warrants that kind of coverage? Because you guys don't have to shoulder that burden, for X amount of month. Like,
Mhm.
here's what we can provide for you, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think because even when I was doing car podcasts, man, it was so crazy how many local business. Now we didn't charge for podcasts because we were trying to get our podcast off the ground, right? So we would just go in and do it. But it was so interesting because we took a certain lane on our storytelling that other people weren't necessarily doing. Um, but it was surprising how many like it was local tuning shops, local. Um, we focused on like service shops for particular cars we like. It's like the JDM stuff or the muscle car stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can talk to local owners of particular cars who tell you that. So the cool thing about that is whether or not you're making money, you're building a portfolio.
Yeah.
And when you build a portfolio, you could throw that stuff on YouTube and make a little bit of money off that, being a YouTube
Yeah.
creator. And who knows where that'll go. But the more important thing is if you ever did go to a car and driver or a Lexus or so and so or whatever, now you have a portfolio that you can look back on that's kind of your brand. And
Mhm.
then the client can choose whether they're going to buy into that portfolio instead of taking a chance on a kid that they've never heard. I
Yeah.
say kid because those guys will probably be 40, 50 years old, right?
Yeah.
So I think, um, but for you to be able to do that, you want to know that your needs are met,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that helps you be clear about which companies you're going to call to do a project for them. You can
Mhm.
afford to do it for cheap because you're trying to, a lot of these, a lot of companies when they're coming out with a new product, they'll start cheap until they build a rep and then they go up. So maybe
Yeah.
you do start cheap just to build a portfolio. So because that will give you access to the larger opportunities.
Yeah.
Um, and then work your way up. Like build a portfolio and then start reaching out to some more substantial local businesses.
Yeah.
You don't have to go nationwide. Like you can build a really healthy business. You live in one of the top cities in the US.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity here between Dallas and Fort Worth. And then for you, like regional travel's easy. There's a pretty decent car culture in Houston, and Austin is where you go to drive. So
Yeah.
like there's plenty for you to be able to do within the state of Texas. And I think instead of focusing on the moonshot stuff right away, build your portfolio. Show them. Don't
Yeah.
tell them about what your work is. That you just show them. Like, just go to this channel, look through my library.
Yeah. 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 It's pretty much what I'm gonna try to be doing, which is
Yeah.
why the guy that I follow on Instagram, his name is the car video guy. He started a
Okay.
super easy name, but he started a. I don't know if you've heard of. It's kind. I wouldn't call it a course, but it's called School. Skool. Um, he is a program where it's. I guess it's a course, but it's actually fairly affordable, and he teaches people how to properly shoot cars, how to just show up to a car show and shoot all the cars that are there, and how
Mhm.
to shoot it properly, all the right video settings, how to use a gimbal properly, how to color grade it properly, how to create a portfolio, and to be um, leverage that for your business or whatever. So that there are definitely a lot of resources out there that I've been trying to utilize, because I'm trying to like model what my portfolio is going to look like based off of what his social media looks like,
Uh-huh.
because I think you have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts for all the short form content, so all the reels and all that stuff. But then you have for the longer form content, you have YouTube,
Oh my gosh.
and so
Hold on one second. Say that again.
so for the longer form content, at least for these types of creators who are in the automotive space,
Yeah.
um, they have these longer. I guess I don't want to call it a highlight reel, but just like a quick minute and a half, 2 minute video of a car with a new body kit or with a new exhaust or something like that. And so there
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
plenty of people doing that. And so when I reference other creators who have been doing this for a while, they're like you said, their entire YouTube channel is their entire portfolio. And so that's what I've been trying to do and trying to figure out how I can based off because I feel like for the past 3 or 4 weeks I've been trying to go to a lot more car shows during the weekends
Hmm.
so I can start learning how to shoot cars properly and learning the proper video settings because I know the basic production, but there's a lot more nitty gritty details, especially when it comes to shooting in log and how to color grade properly and how to edit better.
Mm-hmm.
All these things
Mm-hmm.
that are
Mm-hmm.
going to enhance my ability to put that on my portfolio and say, hey, I did this for. They don't need to know that I did it for free, but I'm saying this is my portfolio. What do you think? And so
Yeah.
that's what I've been actively trying to do. But definitely by going to a lot more car shows is, and then being able to just come with a bunch of reels, post that on like my portfolio or on my website, just that people can see this is what I do. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a good move to
mm,
kind of get the technical details down, like by going to car shows. You see if you can get some people that will let you film their car, you give them the
yeah,
footage, that kind of thing, or you put together something, throw it up on YouTube, and send them the link. But once you get the technical details down, it'll be good for what I would look for you to do is go to like figure out what niche you want the business to make money doing. So you're not going to make a lot of money filming cars for people like rolling shots. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like a lot of effort. You're going to have to drive out to the location. You're going to spend a couple
yeah,
hours shooting. You're going to drive back, and they'll probably pay you $150, right?
yeah,
Whereas you could spend that same time going to, for exaggeration's sake, going to Sewell and saying, I'm going to do, a series of videos for your dealership about your cars or your service or whatever you want to do.
yeah,
And you can spend similar time and make a lot more money.
yeah,
So like once you figure out what the pockets that you want to be in, then go pursue those pockets.
yeah,
And you're gonna have a lot of non-video work before you start doing video
yeah,
work.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you gotta know your story. You go in, you gotta pitch it, and then get your first client, get your second client, and
yeah,
then do great work for them.
yeah.
Um, like you go through the process of building the business in that sense. Um, yeah. So I think, well, I guess the other thing I would want to ask you is like what kind of jobs would you be looking at that are within your industry? Like what kinds of companies would you be looking at, or what kinds of roles would you be looking at?
Yeah. So, I was fortunate enough to finally be able to land an internship for this summer, and this is at the YMCA.
Okay.
So I'm a digital media associate intern for them, and so that's just it's more or less a videographer role, just helping churning out content for them for all their events and all that stuff. And so I've been thinking about what that's going to look like if I can potentially propose the idea of becoming either like their creative director or their head of media because they don't really they have a lot of marketing campaigns but they don't necessarily post all of them on social media. It's just kind of like
Mm,
their official YMCA um, Instagram is kind of all over the place. They
okay.
have posted a lot, but their reels are like even posting a simple recap video of the event itself would do a lot more traction than any post. And so proposing any of that would obviously
Hmm.
require me to potentially go to all these different events within the DFW space because the
Yeah.
YMCA obviously has so many different locations. That is the only other thing because if I wanted to hypothetically be the head of media, that would require building out a full on production team. But as a nonprofit organization, what is that going to look like? Are they really willing to do something like that? Or is that just kind of something that just goes to the wayside? And
Yeah.
whenever they have the chance to post, they post. So other
Yeah.
stuff like that, because, you know, uh, being either like a creative director or a head of media, I have definitely thought about um, definitely being like the head of media at a church or an AV tech or a sound technician or a video technician. Like those are all potential jobs that I could do within my field that
Hmm.
aren't necessarily like full on executive producer roles. Because even within the film space, even working for like a local production company, you never start out as like a director or a writer or a
Hmm.
producer. You got to start out as a production assistant, like all the time. So those are the type of positions that are out there
Have
because
you
they're good.
have you thought about looking at roles within like a production house, like a production company that has larger clients?
Uh, are you talking about like a content house or what do you mean a production house?
Somebody who has, let's say, somebody who has you know, the Lexus dealership, or somebody who has the Audi dealership in the area, like whoever is contracted to them, like you find a job with that company where they teach, like you get to learn the ins and outs of the production, videoing, color grading, like the whole thing, at that level.
I mean, that would be great because that's within a production team, and I'd love to do that. But I think what I've noticed, especially within, even with part time and especially internships, they are just incredibly competitive.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only thing about it's the biggest thing with the creative space is that they are incredibly competitive. And if you don't have the best portfolio or you're willing to work the max amount of hours, I haven't been selected for those types of opportunities.
Okay.
So that's why I've kind of like, as much as I'd like to work for a DFW production team or a production company, and just working as like a camera operator or something like that, like because that's kind of as simple as it gets, especially with the level of experience that I have. It as much as I'd like to do that, I just don't think due to the strictly competitiveness of the field, um, I've kind of strayed away from that and kind of going into like technician roles or head of media, where it's
Hmm.
almost like, or even a social media manager or anything like that, where it requires less skill per se and more
Hmm.
know how about marketing and how
Hmm.
to execute those ideas, when to
Okay.
schedule those posts and stuff like that. That's kind of where, at least within strictly like my career field, that's
Hmm.
kind of where I slowly began to pivot a little bit because of the amount of applications that I've submitted for part-time and internship positions, and then them not turning me down due to the fact that there's so many applicants, and just because of the competitiveness. That's really all it comes down to. So,
Yeah.
but then again, that goes for any field. So,
I feel like even if you had your own business, you're gonna run across pretty much anywhere you're running across, like
yeah,
it's gonna be ultra competitive because you're in Dallas Fort Worth. It's just
yeah,
there's so many people that can do it. Now, if you were willing to travel out
yeah,
and go to secondary cities, that could be actually a plan for you. Is like
mm-hmm,
go where other people are not going and
mm-hmm,
develop relationships, and they're going to be a lot more like when I was doing, I still do business for healthcare, but I found that when I was doing selling, the secondary markets, um, I found it easier to develop relationships and get business because nobody goes out there to see them. So if you care enough to go out there and see them consistently over time, they know you're vested in them, and then
mm-hmm,
they will give you business, you know? So it could be that I know this is kind of Texas local talk or Dallas local talk, but it could be that you go out to like Granbury, it could be you go out to Tyler, it could be that you go out to these secondary markets that have things going on. Like Tyler has a university, Granbury has a huge tourism scene, but it's not like a nationally known thing. It's just
yeah,
there's a lot of really good small businesses out there. So,
mm-hmm,
and not, I don't know that a lot of huge production houses or social media managers are trying to go out there and develop a relationship.
mm-hmm,
So that could be a plan of yours, but the idea is to find some kind of white space. Either it's your branding or the type of videos you put out, the locations you serve, or how you go about it. Um, Ultra competitive just means you're in a venue or a room that's overcrowded. You just need to find another room.
Yeah.
Um, so even with you finding a job, like it could be that instead of being a director or a media manager, you could be just one of the content producers, or maybe you are a media manager. The thing is like it just means you have to go find the businesses that just happen to be looking for one of those and have a little bit of budget for one. And your first couple of clients, businesses do this all the time. It's like there's a period of time where you get loss leaders so that you can build the brand. And once you've proven the product works, then you go out and, client 4, 5, and 6 are going to pay retail price. Your
Yeah.
first few clients are going to benefit financially because they rolled the dice on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets off the ground. I feel like once you get your first client, it's like that's the first domino. Once you cross that threshold, then you can kind of work some other stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would like even within that, just even if you're working for a social media manager at a car dealership, I mean that's cool. You can do some things and put your fingerprint on there, and that's part of your resume, and
Yeah.
you enjoy the work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of take care of your needs and some savings first. Hopefully, a little money to invest into your business consistently, and
Yeah.
then just make good like focus on building the business the way you want to build it instead of having to build it based on.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate all the advice. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about, honestly,
Oh,
because
cool, man.
this has been something that's, I guess, been on my mind for since I started at UNT. So since August, I've just been dealing with a lot mentally, and I'm just like, I need to figure out some sort of, because what was happening wasn't, at least in my business, it just wasn't panning out the way that I was wanting it to, and I'm just like, well, dang, if this is my plan A, I have to come up with a plan B and C, because
Yeah,
I 6 months after graduation, I got to start paying off my loans.
yeah,
So it's just stuff like that where was unfortunately faced with, again, the harsh realities of adulting, and that
yeah.
I guess I wasn't prepared to see, when I
Hmm.
first started college in 2023. But
Yeah,
that I've been able to learn a lot from a lot of guidance counselors and career
yeah,
coaches and academic advisors, because I'm just like, this is still something I wanted to do, because I still wanted to be able to pursue this field, without
yeah,
having to feel like I wouldn't be able to get a job. So at one point, I was definitely considering switching up my major, but the way that my program was, especially as a transfer student, I walked in with half the credits, and so from typically with my program at UNT, they sprinkle in those major classes between freshman to senior year. But because I was walking in with half the credits, I was doing those core classes with 2 years to go. And so they required a lot of prereqs. And so I really am not able to take the production classes I want to take until my senior year. And so I'm
hmm,
like, is it really worth it for me to switch up when I'm finally able to take the classes I want to take? I mean, I talked to my parents about it, and they're just like, we agreed that it's just not worth it, and it's probably best to just finish it out. And if I really wanted to go back to school because I
yeah,
can't find work, I can just go back to school and do something else.
yeah, yeah,
As of right now, I'm finishing it up because I was definitely questioning if I had made the right decision pursuing a creative field, because this is really unheard of in my entire family. Like, it's
yeah,
never been done before. So it was definitely very intimidating and scary.
Yeah,
But I somehow knew I had this sense of peace. And oddly enough, that was the same week I heard back about my internship at the YMCA, where I just had this feeling that God would work all things out. I didn't know how or why. I just knew that I needed to trust Him.
yeah,
I was okay. I'm gonna finish. I've never quit on anything like that before. I'm just like I just have a feeling that this is where I'm supposed to be, and um, yeah. So thank you
yeah.
again.
Oh, of
Um,
course, man. It was great to talk to you.
yeah. So to kind of wrap it up, I like to ask all my guests if there's one thing that you would like to share with the future generation and even people in your generation as well. What's one nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with those people?
Yeah. Okay. The thing that I would love to tell your generation is there's a lot in the world that's going to tell you that you're going to fail and that you're not going to make it, and the forces are against you, and the job market is against you, and like nothing is, it's really hard for you to work out. You're never going to have a house. You're never going to own things. You're never going to do this, that. Like, it's just the way that it's set up. And I'm telling you, like, this country is set up to where you can succeed if you can find a way to bring value. So, um, and it's not hopeless. Like, for example, like all the talk right now is around how AI is going to take jobs and this, that, and the other. And it's true, it's probably going to take some jobs. But whose jobs it's not going to take are the people who uh, figure out how to incorporate AI into the work they do, you know? And so become the most AI enabled person you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, uh, back when I was graduating, they told us the same thing. They were like, the internet was coming out, and HTML and e-commerce and all that stuff was becoming the rage. They're like, oh, all these stores are going to go away, and this and that, and all these jobs are going to go away, and you're never going to make the same money that you were. And it's like, no, dude, like this, you can find a way through all of it. Don't let all the messaging that's supposed to weigh you down keep you from doing the thing that you're really good at doing.
Yeah.
Because if you're really good at what you're doing and you can figure out a way to infuse technology and what society values today, because society today values the creatives. They do. And if you're in a kind of like what they would call a boring field, like accounting or something like that, if you
Yeah.
find a way to infuse AI into those, you're suddenly really valuable.
Mhm.
Like there's always an opportunity. I think that's the one liner is, don't listen to what the media tells you. Don't listen to what all of the naysayers say to you. There is always an opportunity, and there's usually an opportunity for you. Be one of the few that runs after the opportunity. And you do what you need to do in between now and when the opportunity strikes gold. Get a job, take care of your bills, do all of that stuff. But this country rewards those who chase the opportunity and understand what's going on. So don't start off thinking you're not going to make it. They've been telling us we're not going to make it for decades, and in the midst of all that, people make it.
Mhm. That's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
So, as I close, I like to close out every episode with a blessing to you guys, those who are watching. Um, and thank you guys so much for all the support throughout the past 13 episodes. I've seen a lot more fruit from this than I've initially anticipated. I honestly didn't think that anybody was going to watch this, but we're close to surpassing, I think, 60,000 views
Oh
across all my
wow,
podcasts.
that's
So, yeah.
awesome, dude.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for all the support. It really means a lot. And to bless you guys as we close this out for number 624 to 26. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support again. Make sure to like and subscribe. Please share this with your friends. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed rest of your day.
Take care, guys.